Alright, this is the Eden Foods project. This is one of the glue lamps that needs to be replaced. It's just completely rotted out, about half of it at the top here. So we're gonna have to replace it. Okay, here's another glue lamp at the Eden Foods project. This one's gonna have to be replaced. It's rotted down at least 2 lamps, probably the 3rd. And the problem is that's where the beam is connected to the building. So unless this is new, this is really not performing any sort of structural connection. The hanger is still intact, even though while it looks rusted, it's still okay. But it's going to require a new beam, so you get a solid part of the wood of the beam itself. For this bolt, we'll put a new bolt in to reinstall it. Okay, here's another one of the glue lamps at Eden Foods. This should not look like this. It's been rotting over the years. You can see it flakes off of there. Just another example of the damage, of the water damage that occurred. You can see it, all the mold, the rotting. Sort of thing that it should really be replaced. Here's some more example of the rotting of the glue lamp beams out at the Eden Foods project. I don't know if it needs to be replaced or not. I guess I will leave that up to the contractor. It's a rather tall beam, however, it's really skinny. It's only 2.5 inches wide. So any rotting probably undermines some of the structural integrity of the beam. Here's another glue lamp that is rotted in a location. You can see the wood easily just flakes away. It's certainly not good for the beam. It looks like it got the top 2 plies of the laminate. Probably should be considered needing replacement. Here's another one of the glue lamps that has a lot of rotting. You can see, you just get your hammer in there a little bit, it just wants to come right off. It's rotted probably halfway through this beam, down about to here. The problem with that is the beam only becomes the thickness of where my hand is, and this beam isn't considered part of the beam anymore because of the rotting and water damage. Something probably should be done to extend this custom-made metal hanger so it catches more of the beam to about where my finger is, and then you'd have a full beam again and the rotting doesn't come into play. But it's just comes right out of there. It's been sitting moist for years for this to happen. Here's an example of how the plywood just rotted out. You can see it. I can just break it apart with my fingers. The sub-purlin's damaged beyond repair. It's sagging. All the nails have rusted to the point where they're just a thin little nail. I mean, that's not how they were, but they need to be replaced. All of this damage. This is another one of the glue lambs that it just rotted out. And the problem with this one is it's right by this connection. And so there's no longer a strong connection at this point where this beam is connected to this exterior wall. I recommend replacement. And then the plywood, of course, you can see where it just completely rotted. All right, so this is an example of this strap that was machine nailed down through the strap, through the damaged plywood, and into this metal lintel. Now, these just won't come out. We're having to use prying and cutting, and it's taking a long time. It's not designed to be taken off. We'll have to replace all the plywood here, and the only way to do that is remove the strap first. Okay, here's a spot. This location is actually at an area where the roofing hasn't been demoed yet. However, you can just see the damage, rotting. And here's an example of a subpurlin that had just dropped on its own. And the reason for that, I don't know if you can see it, is because the top flange of the hanger has completely just rusted away. And then couple that with the nails that have rusted away, as you can see, which has allowed the subpurlin to just come down on its own, and it just sort of wedged in place. It's a pretty common theme here. There's just tons of rust on these hangers. Here's another example right here. I don't know if it shows up on the video or not, but that hanger is just completely rusted, and it's super thin metal. So my recommendation is on these areas, on the areas that we're not going to put new subpurlins in, is to nail some sort of a 2x ribbon to the bottom of the hangers in such a fashion that it would be nailed into the glue lamb, and then it would support the subpurlin if the hanger behind it is rusted. Because if it's rusted in this location, there's nothing to keep this in place. It's just going to want to come down. Here's an example of what I recommend to keep this, these subpurlins in place. It'd be the most inexpensive way to solve this problem. Here's some more example of the damaged plywood. It is actually just came completely off the subpurlin. Give me a hammer or a cat's paw. Because the edge is nailed to it, and all you have to do is it just falls right off. It's dangerous. It's not safe to have this plywood be like this. All right, I don't know if this shows up on video, but this is a condition where on the original construction, they just didn't do a good job. You can see the hangers sagging down. The subpurlin itself is not tight to the beam like it's supposed to be. So there's a gap in there. That's not how that's supposed to be. That's very unsafe. Anybody walking across that could potentially fall to the ground. Here's another one over here. These all need to be replaced.